Good evening, my friends. This is Paul, and today I'm going to be reviewing Rocket League for the Nintendo Switch. Well, I guess if you want to be technical, it's called Rocket League Collector's Edition, but there's not really much to say that's collectible in this collection, besides a few Mario and Metroid-themed vehicles to choose from. And the fact that this is portable. But let's get back on track. First off, special thanks to the YouTuber by the name of Callum Meaken, who was the one that suggested that I do this review, so congratulations, you get your request. So, Rocket League is that kind of game where it has a very singular premise that expects that it's going to hook you on it because you just enjoy it so much you don't think twice about the extra modes, and that's you're basically playing a game of soccer or American football, as some other parts of the world would say, with cars. And the stadiums have walls that you can drive up, and it looks all futuristic. Basically, your car can jump. That allows it to make accurate turns in the air, and you can also boost when you move across the yellow things on the ground. The meter at the bottom right tells you how long you can boost before you have to recharge. If you hit a yellow spot with a giant orb on it, then you can boost sooner. I guess they're technically called boost pads, but who honestly really cares? However, there's a bit of a double standard when it comes to reviewing Rocket League as opposed to reviewing ARMS, and that game suffered a lot of flack from the critics for not having enough modes. Well, it has a heck of a lot more modes than this does. Well, you could argue, but Paul, there's the online mode, the offline mode, the local mode. You're still only playing, well, bomb ball? I don't want to call it football because you're certainly not using feet, so wheel ball? I could just call it soccer, but that sounds a little bit too American. Whatever the case, you're playing an arena-type game the whole time. No mini-games, no side modes, no storyline, no different characters apart from different car models. You're just fooling around with the ball. So, people, stop saying ARMS lacks variety when this game has even less variety, and yet it scored way higher by most critics that I know. Does that mean that this is a bad game by any means? Absolutely not. I had an absolute blast playing this. In fact, this was actually one of the few games that I actually got a chance to try the online mode because of the free trial I've been talking about. And honestly, they did a really good job of matchmaking. I think Nintendo could certainly learn a few things from them. First off, they said matchmaking can take up to 2 minutes because we're trying to get your preferences in order. Okay, so far so good. And then they said, we are trying to make sure that we're taking into account all of this other great stuff, and man, I wish I had saved a screenshot of that, because it felt like they were prioritizing player satisfaction over their own personal agendas. Which makes me think, oh man, why did Nintendo not learn from this game to make a quality experience? I never experienced any form of slowdown. The opponents seemed pretty well balanced. Sure, I absolutely stunk, but what do you expect from just jumping right into the game? Then I played the offline mode, and I discovered that that was also surprisingly fun. You can choose between 3 different difficulty levels, and I felt like the computer players were reasonably difficult, even on the lowest difficulty for a beginner like me. I'm terrible at sports games to begin with. This game wasn't much of an exception. Although, the few times that I did score, it felt like I had achieved a miracle. Because let me tell you, getting that ball through the goal is a lot harder than it sounds. In fact, that's probably the weakest aspect of this whole game, would have to be the physics engine takes some getting used to. Now, I'm not saying it's bad by any means, but I used to be on a soccer team, and let me tell you, kicking around a ball like that was not that difficult. Then again, maybe it was because I was using feet and not wheels. But it sort of felt like whenever I wanted to just like dribble the ball with my feet like you would in the real sport, something just didn't click with the game. Now, you could argue, well, Paul, why didn't you just adjust the options? Well, that's because there's so many options, I don't even know where to start on a lot of them. It felt like the game offered options on the absolute littlest things, like how much axis do you want to put on the control stick? How much weather effects do you want? How much sound do you want? It was so overwhelming I couldn't even figure out what most of the options were. The fact that there's a lot to choose from means that this is a highly customizable game. So if you're into this kind of thing, but you say are having trouble with the controls or having trouble with the graphics, you can choose to optimize performance over quality. If, say, you prefer a more smoother frame rate, but you don't need the graphics to be absolutely perfect. In my opinion, these are good enough. I mean, they're not mind-blowing because most of it's so mechanical and grungy, but I do enjoy the weather effects, and they actually managed to do a few different arenas. I thought it was just going to be some generic sports place for most of my playthrough, but no, they actually have quite a variety of locales. Car customization was also surprisingly lacking. Well, maybe it's just that they didn't explain well enough how to customize my car. Not only that, but I didn't see a huge need for it. I figured, you're just moving a ball around. This isn't a racing game. You don't really need to prioritize different wheels or different body types, because this also isn't Mario Kart. So, a lot of this may sound like I'm being super duper nitpicky, and that's because I am. I'm not a sports fan, and I'm not a huge fan of these kinds of uber competitive games. However, one thing I can say for certainty is that this game is fun. No matter how you look at it, you're going to enjoy yourself. Now, how much you enjoy yourself is obviously going to be a subjective opinion, because some people like sports games more than others. Some people like heavy, brutal competition more than others. However, if you do have a Nintendo Switch Online service, this is a really good value. If you don't like Tetris 99, then this is definitely one of the better online multiplayer experience. Heck, it beats out Super Smash Bros. Ultimate by a landslide in nearly every way possible. And I wish the team that made that game would look at this and say, this is how you make an online multiplayer game. With many different preferences, even going so far as to say things like, would you want to do 1 versus 1, 3 versus 3? And it's just really darn cool. Overall, I think this game is probably worth a rent if you're not sure about the genre, but otherwise this is a definite must-buy. The price tag shouldn't really concern you all that much because, like I said, your enjoyment is going to vary, but I can certainly tell you this is not the usual $60 that Nintendo charges for their lazy ports. This is quite a nice game with crossplay with other systems too, so you have no real penalty in choosing one over the other. The sound effects, the HD rumble, they're all handled magnificently. And while I wish there were more modes, on second thought, you don't entirely need them either. The main game is satisfying in its own right. And no matter how you choose to play it, either locally, online, or offline, you're going to have a good time. With that, thank you very much for watching. If there's something I missed, or if you didn't like the style that I did this, please let me know in the comment section so I can keep that in mind if I ever review a sports game again. And until the next time, keep the faith, stay epic, God bless, and don't try this at home, because I'm pretty sure you die trying to do a sport like this. Bye.